You've probably heard it before. You're antisocial. You need to be more social. Why do you always choose your pet over people? If you prefer animals over people, you might have internalized these comments as something being wrong with you. But here's what psychology reveals. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're actually wired differently in ways that are genuinely rare and valuable. Your preference for animals isn't a flaw or a sign of social dysfunction. It's a window into how your brain processes connection, empathy, and the world around you. In this video, we're exploring exactly what that means. In this video, we're going to explore 5 rare psychological traits that explain why you genuinely prefer animals over people. If you've ever been called antisocial, cold, or been made to feel guilty about your friendships with animals, you'll recognize yourself in what we're about to discuss. These aren't personality problems. They're distinct neurological patterns that many psychologists actually recognize as signs of deep empathy, high sensitivity, and cognitive sophistication. Let's dive into what makes your mind beautifully different. Here's what's happening in your brain. Animals don't hide. They don't perform. They don't manipulate through subtext, passive aggression, or social games. Your nervous system has likely developed a heightened sensitivity to detecting inauthenticity in human interactions. You notice when people are being fake. You sense the contradictions between what someone says and what they actually feel. This might show up as feeling drained around people who are on, or finding yourself exhausted in social situations where people are wearing masks. You might find yourself thinking, this person is saying they're fine, but I know they're not, or feeling genuinely disturbed by small talk and surface-level conversations. This isn't social dysfunction. This is emotional intelligence operating at a level that makes shallow interaction feel unbearable. Your brain is literally more attuned to authenticity. Animals represent a kind of pure, unfiltered presence that your nervous system craves because it feels safe. You're not rejecting people. You're rejecting the exhausting performance that human social hierarchies often require. Psychology calls this hypervigilance to emotional incongruence, and it's a hallmark trait of highly sensitive people and those with elevated empathetic capacity. Your preference for animals reflects a genuine need for genuine connection, not a deficiency in your ability to bond. Your brain processes social hierarchies differently. In human relationships, there are constant, invisible negotiations around status, dominance, and power. Someone always seems to be trying to prove something, compete, or establish superiority. This creates a kind of ethical friction in your nervous system. Animals, by contrast, interact with simpler, more transparent hierarchies. Your dog doesn't need to prove they're worthy of love. Your cat doesn't perform to earn affection. This clarity feels morally restful. Here's what's happening. Your brain likely has an elevated sensitivity to perceived unfairness and power imbalances. This might show up as feeling deeply uncomfortable in competitive environments or finding yourself frustrated when people use manipulation to get what they want. You might find yourself thinking, why can't we just be honest? Or feeling genuinely disturbed by office politics or social maneuvering. You might feel guilt or discomfort in relationships where there's any hint of power imbalance, even when it's normal and healthy. This isn't weakness. This is moral sophistication. Your nervous system is calibrated toward fairness and equity. Psychology calls this heightened sensitivity to justice and fairness a marker of principled empathy. Your preference for animals reflects your need for relationships built on genuine mutual respect, rather than implicit power games. That's not a limitation. That's integrity operating at the neurological level. Your learning style and communication style are fundamentally different from what's typically valued in human social hierarchies. You probably learn more from watching than from talking. You understand animals intuitively through observation, body language, and subtle cues. Meanwhile, human communication often requires constant verbal feedback, emotional reassurance, and explicit discussion of feelings. Your brain finds this exhausting. This might show up as finding yourself understanding what someone needs before they tell you, or feeling drained by the constant need to explain yourself or justify your feelings. You might find yourself thinking, why do we have to talk about everything? Or preferring to solve problems independently rather than processing them verbally. You might feel misunderstood because people interpret your quietness as coldness, when actually you're processing deeply. This is profound cognitive strength, not social awkwardness. You're operating in what psychologists call the observational analytical learning style. Your brain prioritizes direct observation over verbal processing. This makes you exceptionally attuned to subtle patterns, nonverbal communication, and the unspoken needs of those around you. Your preference for animals reflects a learning style that's actually more perceptive than extroverted conversation allows. You're not avoiding people. You're avoiding an inefficient communication method that doesn't match how your brain naturally understands the world. Your brain's reward circuitry is wired differently. In most people, human social interaction triggers dopamine release, that feel-good neurochemical that makes socializing inherently rewarding. In your brain, this pathway operates differently. A dog's unconditional presence might genuinely generate more neural reward than a complex human social interaction. This isn't because you're incapable of loving people. It's because your reward system operates on different stimuli. This might show up as feeling genuinely confused by people who get energized by parties or feel lonely without constant social contact. You might find yourself thinking, I'm fine alone, or actually needing solitude to feel stable and grounded. You might have fewer but deeper friendships, and find small groups genuinely more satisfying than large ones. You might feel guilt about this, thinking you should want more social connection, when actually your nervous system is simply calibrated toward different forms of stimulation. This is neurological diversity, not social disability. Psychology recognizes that not all brains are wired for high-frequency human interaction, and that's completely normal. You might have what researchers call an introverted reward structure or lower extraversion neurology. Your preference for animals reflects the fact that your nervous system has different baseline needs. Your dog doesn't need you to feel energized by their presence. They simply need you to be present. And that's exactly what your brain naturally offers. The deepest trait underlying your preference for animals is your capacity for what psychologists call unconditional positive regard. You can love without needing anything in return. You don't need your animal to validate your self-worth, improve your status, or fulfill your emotional needs through reciprocal effort. You simply love them because they exist. This might show up as finding human relationships exhausting because they always seem to carry invisible demands or expectations. You might feel frustrated by the constant negotiation of needs in human relationships, or find yourself giving more than you're comfortable giving. You might love deeply, but struggle with the performance aspect of human connection. The need to stay interested, remain engaged, manage someone else's emotions. With animals, you can simply be. This is extraordinary emotional capacity, not emotional avoidance. Your brain is wired for what attachment researchers call secure attachment, without need fulfillment. You can bond deeply without dependence. This is actually the gold standard of psychological health. Your preference for animals reflects the fact that your love operates at a level of purity that human relationships, with all their complexity and need, sometimes can't match. This isn't a deficit. This is the highest form of human empathy. If you've ever felt guilt about preferring animals over people, now you understand why. Your brain isn't broken. It's operating according to principles of authenticity, fairness, observation, and unconditional love that deserve respect, not correction. The truth is that preferring animals over people often indicates emotional sophistication, neurological integrity, and a capacity for genuine connection that our social systems simply don't always reward. You're not antisocial, you're differently social. Your preferences make sense and they matter. If you found validation in this video, subscribe for more psychology insights that explain who you really are. Your mind is worth understanding.